to Ronaldo! Cristiano Ronaldo in the Champions League! Salah! You'll never see anything like this ever again! So watch it, drink it in!
And we are back. Welcome back to Sideline Talk podcast. It has been a long time, plenty to get into. The season is over, but there is still football to discuss. Dale, I'm going to go to you, mate, first. How are we doing?
Not too bad, mate. Still licking my wounds from Liverpool's season, but hanging in there and looking forward to the new season beginning.
And we're going to get into that, so I'll hold you on that topic. And I'll go to Lee. Other than looking a bit cloudy, hopefully you're not feeling that way. You all good over there, mate?
Yeah, head in the clouds, mate. Pre-season break, enjoying it. Glad the season's done with.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit chalk and cheese for me because my bank balance, my liver, and definitely my weight are all glad to see the season over. But Arsenal, all in all, it was a good one. So yeah, there's that factor, and part of me is missing it, but it's going to be good to get off it for a while. Meal Dog, obviously I've seen you recently anyway, to be honest, mate. But how's your day been? Okay?
Yeah, everything's good, mate. Everything's good. Shit end to the season for Arsenal, but buzzing back for a new season. The title charge begins.
Oh God! He started 2 minutes in. That didn't take long whatsoever, did it? But yeah, those of you that are tuning in, make sure you smash that like button and hit the subscribe if you haven't already. I'll go to you first, Dale. We'll go around the room again. I just want to get like a little overall. Obviously, we've not really touched base since the season ended. I want to get your thoughts on it, as I guess you kind of gave an idea of what you thought on it with the little intro. But overall, how disappointed were you? And I kind of want to get an idea of where you think it all went wrong. Obviously, missing out on top four, almost close in the end. But yeah, give me your thoughts.
From a Liverpool point of view, I don't think we particularly done enough in the summer before the start of the season. That coincided with the fact that we started the season and seemed to didn't have a full squad. We picked up some key injuries right at the start of the season and in pre-season, which didn't help. I think just having a slow start, we weren't really at the races. I think we were a little bit sluggish as well to begin with. I think we kind of got lured into a bit of a false expectation with the Community Shield performance. I think we thought because we beat City and it was an entertaining game, I think we thought as Liverpool fans we were going to go into it and it was going to be another season where we challenged City. But I think it was more the fact that City were just still so far behind in their preparation. I think Klopp has to take quite a lot of blame for especially the first half of last season, because I think he got a lot of things wrong. I think transfers, I think he trusted in players that he shouldn't have trusted in. I think he didn't sign enough players in the summer either in the right positions, i.e. midfield. And ultimately, I think at the start of the season, if I remember, we just kept making the same mistakes and playing the same tactic week in, week out. So it was like nothing was changing. He was still persisting with doing the same things that we've done for the last 4 or 5 seasons. And I think a lot of teams have just found a way to nullify us. I think it picked up in the second half of the season. We started to find a little bit of form. We started getting some key players back like Jota and Diaz. They were huge misses last season. I think the fact that Thiago was hardly ever fit as well. And then, towards the end of the season, it started picking up again. We started to play some football. He changed a few things. He moved Trent. And we started to see... I think we started to see toward the back end of the season the evolution where he's trying to take it, and I think with the signing of McAllister now as well, we're going to start to see that with Gakpo getting more integrated into the team. McAllister will come in. I think obviously Diaz will hopefully stay fit for all of next season, and then we should have a better base to start with. But I think it was an accumulation of things. It was an accumulation of transfers, management decisions, and also just the players maybe not wanting it quite as much as they have previously. So that's how I'd sum up Liverpool in a nutshell, really.
That's good. And I'm going to hold you to that on McAllister because I do want to get your thoughts on that after. But Lee, just going off of Dale's comments, do you agree with that? And it's a good comment on Klopp, actually, because I have seen a lot of slander towards FSG. And from what I'm seeing, McAllister alone just sums up really that you do get business done in a good light. Do you think Klopp is sort of maybe perhaps given some sort of leeway due to the seasons that he's had where he has been successful with Liverpool, obviously winning the title, Champions League, and this season it's just all gone a bit wrong. But do you feel like perhaps he is more to blame than what some fans are suggesting?
No, not really. I'd still build a statue of him tomorrow. What he's done for the club is unbelievable. Don't get me wrong, he did make mistakes last year, but it's not just him that's responsible for him. You talk about the transfers, there's a whole team behind that. Thankfully, we've got this new geezer in who's hit the ground running with McAllister. He's not like his job's in doubt or anything. If he left, it'd be uproar. So,
yet.
Oh God.
No, but I'm not starting an argument. I'm just saying, and I've said it to you boys before the start, it's a big season for him. I just think, a couple bad results midway through the season. Not saying they'll sack him, but, it's a big one for him.
Yeah, of course it's a big season. But, you just got to look at where he's taken the club from. What he's done for even not just the club, just like the city as a whole. His whole impact is more than just getting results on the pitch.
Yeah, but you have to hold him accountable for that going forward.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Sam on this because I've seen Arsenal and the light that our fans get into, and we lose one game and it's hell.
We finished the season strongly. We had a very poor January, had some poor results at the start of the season, but we finished well. Obviously, Gakpo is looking like a good signing. We're getting a lot of players out, which is good. A lot of the deadwood. So.
You need to get that geezer back on the chance.
He's building again. So, there's still a few people need to get gone, like Joe Gomez. He needs to go. And Nat Phillips and Matip and people like that. I'm picking on defenders, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to be left with two fullbacks and no one in the middle. But, you've got a lot of the tools. And like we say, McAllister, what a bloody signing. For the sake of 35 million... We saw Odegaard for that price, and he's just had a phenomenal season. We're going to get in some season awards a bit later on, which I'm sure he'll be discussed and potentially mentioned. McAllister, 35 million. Dale, how do you think this got done so well? And how well can you see him coming into this midfield? Because there are some weak links, and no doubt about it, he walked straight into this team. But a World Cup winner, Premier League proven, 35 million. How excited are you about this?
He's probably the best. I think he's probably the closest thing to Gini Wijnaldum that we're going to find. I think a lot of Liverpool fans, there was a lot of people who didn't really expect that Gini Wijnaldum leaving was going to be a problem. But I don't really think we've ever replaced him with that type of player who could do a bit of everything. He can track back and defend. He's got an absolute engine on him. He's good on the ball. He can score a goal. I think Gini Wijnaldum for us was one of the most underrated players in the Premier League that we've had. And we've never really replaced him. And I think McAllister, when I watch him, he's probably the closest thing to Gini Wijnaldum that I've seen. So if he has anything like the career that Wijnaldum had, and he's anything like the player Wijnaldum was, I think we've got a good one. I think it is very hard sometimes when you look at certain players, and obviously he's playing on the Brighton side with obviously some brilliant players, but this is now, he's got to step up now. He's proven that he can do it in a World Cup on the biggest stage with the biggest players. I think he's one of them players where you kind of say he's a shoo-in to be a decent signing, and he's not one that you sort of worry about whether he can adapt. I think he's a typical Klopp player. I just hope he stays fit and that he can hit the ground running in pre-season and we get to see the best of him. He's played a lot of football in the last sort of 6 to 8 months. So I think he's going to need a decent rest this summer and then come back raring to go. But I'm excited about him. I think we've been crying out for a player like him for a while, somebody that can do a bit of everything. So I'm excited to see what he brings.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. To be honest, I mean, I've just said off air, I'm quite surprised that ourselves or even another club didn't go in for him. Perhaps it's due to the fact he is quite a lot like some players that we have already and some other teams as well. But just some comments here. I've got one from Luke, which I can see. I'm guessing that Miller has replied to, just based on the fact that it is to do with Spurs. Can't be as bad as Dyer or Sanchez. Agreed. We're not even going to put him in the same conversation. Luke's story, no one as bad as that. Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing upon the wonderful weather we've been having in the UK? Congrats to Man City winning on treble and Argentina winning the World Cup. Yeah, great shouts there. Cool, that feels like a lifetime ago, the World Cup. In fact, it was. I mean, looking back now, it actually was whiles back. But yeah, even in that competition alone, you could see what McAllister had in his locker. And the fact he went for just as little as 35 million, I was quite baffled. I know it was to do with a buyout clause. And, you know, with those things, you can't really help. Brighton can do nothing about it. But had that clause not been in there, I'm seeing a club spending 60, 70 million in easy. But Miller, I want to get your thoughts on this from an outside point of view. Liverpool, McAllister is just, you know, one of many fish in a pond potentially. There's still a lot of the summer to go. There's still the window to begin. How much more do you think Liverpool need doing before we get onto our team? Just try and be steady, because remember, we have Arsenal to discuss yet. But yeah, do you think there's a lot more work to do? Because obviously they've got a great front three. We just spoke of Diaz, Gakpo, Salah's still in the mix, Diego Jota. But there's also the sore wound of Firmino, who for me I thought was an incredible player.
Has it been confirmed where he's going?
Nowhere yet. Barcelona, yeah. I would put money on.
Oh, no. The front line's never been a problem for them. They've recruited really well. McAllister, I think, is one of the best signings of the season potentially. For me, a long way to go for them. Midfield, they've struggled probably for the last season and a half. I think that's their Achilles heel at the moment. Moving Trent into that midfield role will be interesting this season if they stick with it. You know, Klopp has a tendency to put him in there for a couple of games, draw him back out, put him back at right back. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, you know, if I was a Liverpool fan, promising signs, early doors. I think they needed a lot more in that middle. You know, I'm surprised they're not going to try and go for this Casado or anything like that as well. You know, a lot of teams are looking at him at the moment. I think he's got perfectly in there. But, you know.
The price tag, though, isn't it? I think that's the only thing. The price tag just...
Yeah, but Liverpool aren't shy of spending money. They've done it. Yeah, okay, they've done it with the net spend a lot. But still, you know, if they want to get back to them heights, I don't think they're miles off. They had a shit season, let's be real. But they're not. It's not like they're slowly falling off. Like, this is a one-season thing for them. This is unusual. Yeah. So we'll see how serious they are.
This is my point, and they're going to bounce back along with other teams. You know, you've got Chelsea that weren't in the running, no doubt with Pochettino in the turnstile. He's going to do exactly what I don't want to happen to Chelsea, in all honesty. He's going to turn them around and he'll put the pieces together. But we're going to move on to Arsenal, and I kind of skipped you there, Lee, so I'm going to get an outside point first from you on our season. And I know you're going to just try and, you know, make this bring up bad wounds for us. But yeah, what was your thoughts towards the end of the season for Arsenal? Because obviously it was looking well. You know, we was at 1.7 points clear, I believe it was, when all the games were sort of tied up together and there was no games in hand. And from then onwards, I went on holiday, and all of a sudden I come back and it's over. So yeah, give me your thoughts on sort of the end of the season to Arsenal, and how were you surprised, or how surprised were you for it not to happen for us in the end?
I think it's easy. It's very easy to say not surprised, because people were saying all season, we're City are too good, they're too strong. But I still felt, yeah, Arsenal did throw it away really, because they had that sort of 3-game spell where they threw away a 2-0 lead at Anfield, threw away a 2-0 lead against West Ham, and then obviously lost to bottom of the table Southampton. And I feel like if they've got 3 wins,
3-0, come on, let's get the
3-0 in. Those sort of 3 draws killed them. Just ruined their momentum, gave City the advantage. You give City any sort of way back in, they're going to take it, because they're just an absolute animal. In terms of like City's season, although they've won the treble, I don't know, their points total are probably still a little bit less than they have been the last couple of years. So it was definitely there to be won, but it's just, you need so many points to win to win this league in this era, it is ridiculous. It's so hard to stop City. You know, getting near 100 points is just near impossible for most teams. It's. I think you can hold your heads up high that you've come second. I think everyone can acknowledge that Arsenal played probably the best sort of football in the league this year. It's just a bit of kind of like you ran out of steam and just, I don't know, maybe lacked a bit of experience in terms of holding the leads in the pressured games towards the end. I don't know what sort of signage you can make to address that. Possibly some defensive cover, because obviously it was obvious when Saliba dropped out, Rob Holding weren't up to it. It was the obvious one. Maybe some midfield cover as well, which is the obvious areas you're looking for with Declan Rice possibly coming in and other areas.
Yeah. It's just brought it all back up and I'm kind of annoyed again.
You need to do better in the cups as well. You need to do better in the cups. Like you went out early in sort of League Cup, FA Cup.
Yeah, Europa League as well. I watched that with you, didn't
Europa
I?
League, yeah. So it'd be how you're going to manage to do Champions League and the title challenge next year is it's difficult. It's gonna
big way.
I think it's going to be a big learning experience for you next year. It'd be interesting to see how you cope with it.
And Dale, before I go to Sam, obviously being an Arsenal fan, and then I'll sort of give my 2 pence on it. We mentioned City there, Lee. They've just won the treble, which was the main aim. You know, that was what they were looking forward to do because they'd done everything else. Champions League was the final. You know, was the final thing. They've done that now. I was watching the Champions League, the final the other day, and I was just watching the post interview with Henry and Carragher, and they were sort of saying like, what's the aim now to Haaland? Like, do you just keep this going? I look at that team and I wonder, how do you stop them? Because they've been a real force to be reckoned with pre-Haaland. They've now got Haaland, you know, and he can only get better. He's only 22 years of age. Do you feel like there is an opportunity next season where maybe they might do, you know, the Liverpool following their title win, the Chelsea following their title win, where teams fall off? Is there an opportunity there? Because there is going to be players that leave that are quite crucial to the team. You've got your Gundogan that's potentially going to go. De Bruyne has maybe got 2 seasons left in him. And I look at it and I think, is that where this team perhaps needs to start moulding again? What's your thoughts on City? And do you feel like there is a maybe opportunity next season, or are they just going to keep going the way they've started?
I think there's definitely an... Oh, sorry, was that to Dale?
Go on, Lee. Go on.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I feel like there's definitely an opportunity for people to challenge them. You know, we saw it with Arsenal this year, they were close enough. It was just bar a couple of games where they messed it up. And we've seen it with, obviously, the year Liverpool won the league as well, and like the 2 years where they were a point away from it as well. They could definitely be challenged. Like I said, their points total was lower this year, even though they did win the treble. Some of their players are getting a bit older. I mean, you saw De Bruyne limp off in the final again. And even in the final itself...
Like how you put it again there.
Even in the final itself, they didn't exactly play great. Like, Inter gave them a very good game and were very unlucky to...
Inter should have won it. Some people could say they should have won, really. They had the more chance.
I don't know. It's hard to say. It could have gone either way, really. But, yes, I think their team can definitely challenge them. I don't think they're just going to run away. It's just not going to be like a... They're going to be challenged every year, definitely. But to say they're going to win it every year, I don't agree with that at all. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they recruit as well. And if this financial stuff comes up against them as well, if that's going to impact them in any way. I know there was some talk this morning.
Sam's licking his lips.
Yeah, I know there was some talk this morning about possible salary caps as well. So if that ever comes in, I don't know. But I think the Premier League is always been the most competitive league in the world. I still think it will continue to be. And I think City will get knocked off their perch eventually, just like Liverpool did, just like Man United have. And I think now the other teams have got to try and knock City off their perch, and it will come around again.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, no one wants to see the same team doing it every single season. It just gets boring. And even all these Man United fans that were sitting there, oh, I'm so glad that City won it over Arsenal. What a load of hoo-ha. Like, how deluded are you? That's your biggest rivals. Facts. You know, they're on your doorstep. And you're trying to tell me that...
It pisses me off so much. I'm glad you said that because everyone was celebrating it as a City of Manchester winning the league.
Yeah, all right. You go watch your team win, you know, the same...
It's probably only probably only United fans down south saying that. I can't imagine actual people in Manchester.
So you mean all of their fans then?
Yeah.
But yeah, Dale, just going off of that, what I was going to ask originally with City, next season, you know, they're going to try and push for this to happen again. I think going for the treble again is maybe too much of an ask, considering, you know, there's a lot of teams that fell down there and are going to come back up. And I think with City, I think they'll just go for everything. And yeah, they've got the depth for it, but there's going to be injuries. There's players getting older. And that midfield, something's going to happen with Gundogan leaving and De Bruyne if he continues with these injury problems. But what's your thoughts on them and how confident, well, I say confident, you're not a City fan, it's probably the last thing you want to happen, but how much would you believe that they can potentially be matched in terms of this quality that they've shown?
Well, I agree with Lee. You've got to remember that for over 3/4 of the season, they were chasing. You know, so it's been proven by a young Arsenal side that are inexperienced that they can take them over 3/4 of the way. All right, they didn't quite take it right to the final few days of the season, but they took them a lot further than, you know, what any Arsenal fan would have thought they would have done. Obviously, you've got the likes of Chelsea who have now appointed a proper manager. They're going to spend money. They're going to improve. Liverpool hopefully are going to improve. I think that Arsenal, if they make the right signings with the players they've been linked to again, they could potentially improve it even further on what they did last season. I think Man United are slowly starting to improve as well. So I don't think they're unstoppable. I think a lot of teams will start to figure a lot of people out. I think Haaland obviously coming in has scored a tremendous amount of goals, but eventually, like most good teams in the Premier League, they will find a way to try and nullify him and he'll have to do something different. You've got players like Mahrez, players like Gundogan, players like Bernardo Silva, De Bruyne. They're all in their peak years over the last sort of 2 seasons coming into this one. Eventually, they're going to start to decline. So you're going to look at it. They're going to need to replace Gundogan. Looks like he's leaving. Bernardo Silva. There's rumours that he wants out. Mahrez, you know, he's into his 30s now. Is he going to want to sit around for much longer when he could potentially?
How do you replace Kevin De Bruyne as well?
This is what I'm talking about. So although they've got Haaland, and yes, he's young and he's going to score a lot of goals, and they've got Alvarez as well. They at some point, maybe not this season, but maybe next summer, Man City are going to have to do a rebuild of their own. And I know it's a lot easier for them because they can spend a hell of a lot of money. But you still got to identify the right players. You've got to buy the right players at the right time. And if the players aren't available, you can't buy them. So there's going to be a point, like every team, like Liverpool have had their cycle, Man United teams in the past have had their cycle, Chelsea teams had their cycle, where you have to almost do a rebuild. And sometimes that rebuild can take 2 or 3 seasons. I think the unlucky thing for Arsenal is that they've got into a title race with Man City at the point of where they are at the peak of their power. Every single player in their squad, barring probably Haaland, who's still got a lot more that he can do. I think that they're all going to be starting to come on decline now.
Actually, I was just thinking about that. They've still got some very good young players. You know,
of course they have. Yeah, of course they
22.
have.
Ruben Diaz is only 25.
I'm not saying that
Lewis looks good, doesn't he?
I think that you got the big players that they're going to need to replace. You know, the Gundogans, the De Bruyne's at some point. Mahrez isn't going to hang around. You know, if you look in the wide areas, they're not littered with talent in the wide areas. If Mahrez was to leave, they'd look quite thin there with just kind of Grealish, Foden. I know that Alvarez sometimes plays out there, but I think you might actually see next season, I think there'll be a bit of a transition with City. I think you might see Alvarez playing a lot more games with Haaland up front. I think they might start transitioning into more of a diamond in midfield with and kind of going without wingers. I think Grealish might play more of a tucked in role. I do think with the likes of Saudi Arabia as well that are throwing money around left, right, and centre, players like Mahrez, Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, they're all getting to that sort of early 30s where they've probably only got one more big move in them. And this Saudi money, especially, and the overseas money might start tempting some of these big players away because they've won everything they can win with Manchester City now, and it kind of doesn't really get much better than it's already got for them. So I think there might be a few players that leave, but obviously, I think City, the only thing left for City now is to go and do the quadruple, isn't it? That's going to be their aim for next season. Pep's going to say, let's go and do something. The only way to beat a treble is a quadruple, and they'll be the only team to ever do it. So, but I don't think they're unstoppable. I think you've seen this season on enough occasions, enough teams give them problems. I think even in that run up, there was a few games. I think Newcastle at home, there was a few games in between. I think even the Arsenal games were for periods quite tight. I know the scoreline suggests otherwise in a couple of them games, but I do think that the gap will be reduced next season. But I think there'll be more than just Arsenal and City in the race. I think there'll be maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, fair point. We've spoken on City, and to be honest, I've had enough of it now. But it's tough. It's you just got to bite your tongue and just accept that what they've done is great, and applaud what you can applaud. Mildog, we've mentioned Declan Rice just in a few moments. Linked to Arsenal heavily. Obviously, West Ham went and got the Conference League. Make of that what you will. Congratulations to them, but let's just remember what the Conference League is and not put it in conversations that it should be put in. However, Declan Rice, we just spoke of how it's a good way for Champions League, Man City players to bow out. They've gone and won the Champions League. Declan Rice, this is his moment now. He's won the trophy. Looks like he's going to go. How crucial is it that you think we get this done? Lee, is that you? That is definitely Lee.
It's not. It's not me.
I promise you, it's not me. Look, I'm here. No, I mean, touching on Declan quickly. I think, nothing's done yet. It'd be interesting to see how long. I know the transfer window ain't open, so I don't know how this works. I mean, someone's going mental with all that, by the way. But it's I mean, obviously, we want it done early, as soon as we can. It's a good intent. Is it enough? Probably not. The likes of Xhaka, our midfield looked leggy at the end of the season there. Let's be honest. I think that's one of the things that we lack is a decent midfield. Parties not looking the same player as probably last season. So I think Rice coming in. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think.
I thought he had his best season for you until the end.
He missed a lot.
With parties, just hot and cold. He'll have a great moment or two.
He missed a lot. Like, you don't realise he missed a lot of games as well. So I mean, Rice comes straight in, and he's probably the first name on the sheet in that middle. Just who do we find to go around him? Odegaard, play slightly in front of him. If we could get like another Casado or something like that, I think that midfield's looking naughty. I really do. Don't think we'll get both. Really don't think we'll get both. I've been burnt by the Cronkies so many times, and we get excited so early, and we end up with like a Welbeck or someone like that. But fucking it just is what it is.
Let's not slander Danny Welbeck. He's probably one of the few players that's left that I still
but
appreciate.
What season to build? Again, Liverpool unfortunately failed to do that. Once you get so close, you need to keep the pressure on. When you're fighting these juggernauts in the European stage and in the league front, you need to go and get these players. Yeah. I don't know whether
I think that's the key. That's the key for Arsenal this season. Is you can't. I know the target was top 4, and the owners will look at it and go, well, the money we've invested to get into the top 4, the money we get for being in the top 4 kind of backtracks that. But you have to keep going. So if Declan Rice is available, you have to go and get him.
We've seen what happens with Liverpool as well. Liverpool was in that title race for many, several seasons. As soon as they step out of it, you've set yourself a precedence now. You need to be up there. The same conversations are going to be had for next season with Arsenal. If we don't recruit correctly, that's not going to be an excuse. People will say, all right, well, you managed to do it last year. I think it's going to be, the heads are going to be on us next season. We're going to need to do a lot.
I think you mentioned it's a big season for Klopp. I think it's a big season for Arteta now because he's had will this be his full season at the start of next season? Yeah. So I think now this whole trust the process stuff's got to stop now. It's now you're in the process. The process is finished. You've done a title challenge. You've got into the top 4. Next season, he has to be back up there. I don't think that just being in the top 4 next season is going to be enough for Arsenal. I think you've got to be challenging for the title, and that's minimum now. I don't think that he could have a season where he just creeps into top 4 and the fans will be happy with it.
and that's the issue as well. Top four is only going to it's only going to become a bigger challenge next season. We spoke earlier on Liverpool.
I think whoever gets Rice is just. I think they're getting a fantastic signing regardless.
Yeah. This is the problem as well. Which Richard, thank you for tuning in, Richard. But yeah, this is the issue.
This is what I just laughed at, by the way, when you were speaking. Mbappe, Bellingham.
Yeah, but they're saying though. I mean, but they only want 130. So I expect every top 6 English team to inquire. What's it going to take?
Yeah, I mean, for me, with Mbappe, what they don't want is a Messi situation. Messi now could potentially be going on as but I mean, he went as a free agent before. They don't want to get themselves in that sort of situation. Similar to Harry Kane, Spurs have got to be considering, right, if we don't get a new deal on the table and he doesn't sign that deal, come 2024, that man's going on a free. And how many Tom, Dick and Harrys are going to be turning around and saying, we're going to sign Harry Kane, we'll pay whatever wages we want. Same conversation could be had for Mbappe if they don't tread carefully. But yeah, going back to the whole Arsenal situation, we've got too much of a work to do. Xhaka gone. That's going to, as much as people may not like to agree with it, it's going to leave a huge hole. One that Rice may fill, and we're going to need another. They're talking of Jorginho wanting to go out. I'm all ears. I'll take him now. I'll pay for the taxi. But we're going to need to actually replace him. We can't just get rid of all these players and leave all these gaps. We're already in a situation where we need 1 or 2 midfielders. Oh, I know what I do. I'll add fuel to fire. I'll sell Xhaka. I'll sell Jorginho. We're back to square one. So we can bring in Rice, but if we sell Jorginho after that, we're gone 2 steps ahead and 1 step back again. But I don't know if the players are out there. You need to make sure these signings are adequate, because if they're not adequate enough, it will fail. And I agree, Arteta's a good man to put a midfield and put the pieces together, but you've got to find the players first, like Dale was mentioning earlier. These are not all guarantees. Sasado, yeah, okay, great in a Brighton shirt, but that doesn't always mean he's going to come into this Arsenal side and that it's going to work. Sometimes the piece don't fit. But yeah, that's a good. Whoever put that, I'm going to guess it was it you, Sam? But yeah, it's a good old Olge. Yeah, you've made up for your up the irons comment. Let us know in the comments where you think Declan Rice will end up. Is it too good to be true for Arsenal? It'll be a hell of a signing.
And how will the West Ham replace losing Declan Rice as well?
Yeah, I mean,
they're losing their best player, their leader, their captain.
I think the West
Ham paying for it as well.
I think the West Ham fans would wish him well. I think I've listened to a lot of West Ham fans online, and they've all said, look, they can't ask for more than him. He deserves to be playing at a better standard of club in the best competition. So I don't think West Ham fans would begrudge him leaving. He's done it in the right way. He'll go out on a high, winning their first trophy in God knows how long. He's going to go down as an absolute legend at their club. So I don't think they'll begrudge him leaving.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen many comments. I think I've seen fans perhaps more towards Rice going abroad because they don't want to see him playing another shirt in the Premier League against West Ham, which I get because, it's not going to be great seeing him in another shirt after all he's done for the club. But you've got to just, give credit where credit's due. On that note from Luke, I think there is more to do than that. Sam, I'll let you answer as well. But for me, I don't even think the defence is where we need to start. There's talk of us signing Castagne. Jesus Christ. I mean, I'd rather see bloody Cedric walk in the door. I don't see how we can get Champions League pool. And one of the first players we're being rumoured to sign is Timothy Castagne. I wasn't even that amazed with him at Leicester, in all honesty. And I get the whole thing of, just because you got relegated doesn't mean you're a star player. We've got Ramsdale between the sticks. I'm not Stevie Wonder. I'm not blind. But it's just the fact that we need to use the pool we've got with Champions League now. We've not had it for a long, long time. Use the weight and sign the right adequate players. As for Jesus, a full season's a big ask. He's just had one of his biggest injuries of his career. I don't remember him being injured for that long for Man City. I think to put all the pressure on him perhaps is too much.
Let me jump in, Dan. Do you think, and I'll open this up to everyone, do you think Arsenal need to go in for a like-for-like replacement or someone better than him to lead the line?
I would say a right winger that can play in the middle as well would be perfect because Saka needs that depth. I'm not happy with the 100k given towards Nelson. I don't really understand. I
And
don't
a 5-year
understand
deal
what
as well.
we're
Pepe coming back, you know?
Huh?
Who?
Nicholas Pepe is coming back off loan. Yeah?
He's
Yeah,
trying to
but
wind
that
us
is
up.
going to be used as a deal
He's
somewhere. And
he's
then
really
go
on the
out,
wind up
right?
tonight.
I'd like to see actually how he does in this team. You know, it's a different side now. You
He
know,
won't be
they're
he
more
won't be
attacking.
playing out. He won't be stepping out on the field again. Arteta's
Correct.
made it loud and clear. I think as soon as you give a player's number away, that is telling the player what on earth he is meant to be doing, and that is moving on. As soon as Trossard was given that number 19, I think Pepe knew what, you know, he knew that, you know, the bed's been made. And to be honest, I feel sorry for Pepe. It wasn't his fault. He had his chance. Yeah, he got given his moments, but the system just didn't work for him. We were going for a complete decline, then rebuild, and he was just at the club at a bad time. But I personally would like to see us sign a right winger that can play through the middle. That way, we've sort of killed two areas, and we can focus with more money in the midfield, like we've spoke on. Because El Nenny's gone, Jorginho's gone, Xhaka's gone, and even with the team we had last season, I said we needed 2 signings. So at the moment, we need a whole bus. But yeah, centre back would be great, but I think focus on the other problems at hand for now. It's Rob Holding replacement. He barely got on the field as it was, to be honest. He's a leader in the dressing room. That's all he's there for. And it's at least
If you're getting a right back, you can use Ben White in the middle anyway.
yeah,
That's
and
his
there's my
natural
other
position,
point.
though. Ben White was brought in as a centre half.
Yeah, I don't want Castang anyway.
Isn't it?
Huh?
You just signed that Kiwa in the winter transfer window, didn't you? Was that his name?
Yeah, but again,
Kiwa.
very
His name?
very raw.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it.
He got a
Polish,
bit
isn't he?
bullied in a couple of games he played as well. So I mean, yeah, we'll give him a go, but still.
But yeah, I mean, I think
best comeback of all time. Rob Holding's hairline.
That's what I mean. It's just all about that, and that's when you know that you've got a shitter.
Let's talk. Speaking of shitter, let's speak on this. Great timing to discuss.
I think it's good signing, mate. Honestly, I generally think that Postecoglou might surprise a few people. I think he's not gonna have any ego. I think he'll demand a certain work ethic from the players. One thing I don't think he'll stand for is any of this tools going down nonsense. I think he'll speak to each individual player, and I think he'll say to them, if you don't want to be here, then you're free to leave. I actually think it depends on how much money he gets to rebuild and what players he can get out, because I don't think he'll be able to give away half of them Spurs players. I don't see Harry Kane staying unless he generally just wants to stay at Tottenham forever and be, you know, like a one club man and be a legend at Tottenham.
Who comes in for him though?
Well, I think Real Madrid would have been the obvious choice, but I think with Mbappe's bombshell that he's dropped, I think that Madrid will go all out for him. Reports are suggesting that Man United have kind of cooled their interest in him as well, because they're looking at other people like Osimhen. Man City obviously aren't going to sign him. Chelsea need a striker, but again, would Spurs want to sell him to? Would Spurs want to?
While we're talking on Kane, can I just bring this back? That's the only name on that listing that I would perhaps see potentially reasonable. I can't see them going for Leroy Sané. Jesus Christ, are we in 2012 or what? But
I think Kane to Man United makes the most sense, but from what I've read and things online, obviously you can take that out.
I think he just wants that Alan Shearer, doesn't he? He's going to want to try and beat that record, which means another 2 seasons. It's a big ask. I don't
see the point of him going to Man United, to be honest.
It's not guaranteed trophies.
Why? Because he's nearly 30 and they're not guaranteed to challenge.
They've got a history of that type of signing though, haven't they? Let's be honest.
He might as well stay at Spurs if he's going to go to United.
United are a much more attractive proposition than Spurs at this moment in time.
Yeah, at this moment in time.
Sam, can I ask you to back that
they're
up?
They're not going to win
to know why.
the league or a Champions League, are they? Whereas if he goes to Real Madrid, why would you not want to go there if you're Harry Kane?
Oh yeah, of course. I'm not saying the overseas thing is not a massive drawing point. And if he's got anything about him, you push for that sort of transfer. But what I'm saying is if it's Spurs or Man United, I know I'm going Man United.
I think the thing is with him is that a lot of people on a lot of things have been said is that his family are very in touch with London, and they're not that keen on. He's got 2 young kids and a wife, and obviously they're not that keen on going abroad. I think his wife's very close to her family, and I think the going abroad thing might be a bit of an issue for them. I think Man United will explore Osimhen first. If they can't get Osimhen out of Napoli, then I think that Kane will probably be their next target. But I don't think that he's number one. As mad as it sounds, I don't think he'll be number one on many lists. Maybe Chelsea, Man United, I think he'll be second after Osimhen. Madrid, he'll be second after Mbappe. PSG, would they look at him as a potential replacement for Mbappe? Maybe. But I don't really see where he goes other than Man United or Madrid.
How much would you cap him at? Like how much if money wasn't an issue to an extent?
I think based on the contract situation, I don't see how it can be more than 100 million. I think if you pay more than that for someone that's meant to be leaving their contract next year, it's just getting ridiculous.
I would say somewhere between 90 to 120.
Yeah, I don't see how you can pay more than 100 mil for a player that could potentially walk for free in 8 months. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're, Van Nistelrooy, Henry, Mbappe, Messi, and Ronaldo put together. If you've got 12 months left on your contract, you shouldn't be costing more than 100 million.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. Otherwise, it's just going to make teams get even more out of control than it already is. It's going to get Rob Holding going for 20 million if things like this are going to start.
The thing is, we're all sort of speculating that he wants to leave or he's going to leave. He may just turn around and say, I'm going to stay at Spurs and I want to try and get Spurs, win a title with Spurs or win a trophy with Spurs,
I think the relationship with the new manager is crucial.
Thing is, though, you've got to look at, there's been players before who've stayed at clubs and won trophies.
There you go.
I mean, Liverpool had it with Gerrard. He didn't win. He did win trophies with us, but he never won the Premier League. But he stayed there. People would never have said that he was mad for staying. So I think sometimes, because we're not used to seeing players stay at a club their whole career now, we're used to seeing players. I think it's a bit of a shock now when we kind of see if he was to turn around and say, I'm going to sign a new contract with Spurs and I'm going to stay with Spurs. I'd say fair play to him at the end of the day.
I'd say my only argument against that is the fact he's been at Spurs and he's had 2 or 3 of some of the game's greatest managers and still won absolutely fuck all. So why is some angry Australian going to convince him otherwise?
No, but that's exactly that. You're so right. If him walking through the door, my mind's already made up.
He could say what he wants, but he could just be like, look, the manager's got Conte and Mourinho. He's everywhere to been. Why is he going to be any different?
Some angry Australian. That is brilliant. But yeah, I think for me with this, I can't see it being see it being a long tenure. I can't see it being a successful one. In all honesty, I think there's too much.
If he did leave Spurs, who Spurs would get in to replace him?
I think for me, there's too much work to do for this manager. Postecoglou, I don't even want to try pronounce his name, but look, it's a complete different kettle of fish. Walking in from Scottish League to the Premier League, we saw it with Steven Gerrard. He made a bad move. I think this is just going to be Gerrard times 2. I think it's going to happen all over again. He's going to ruin the good thing he had going on. And look at Brendan Rodgers now, potentially walking back into Celtic. After all the things that have happened with it, he's lucky if he gets that lifeline. In all honesty,
he won a trophy though, didn't he?
Yeah,
I know he won relegated, but he won him a trophy at least.
I actually thought Brendan Rodgers was a perfect fit for Spurs. I know he had a bad season with Leicester, but for 2 or 3 seasons he had Leicester punching well above their weight. They were, they were in the top 4 for a majority of 2 seasons and just fell away at the end. And I know he had a bad season last year.
I think there was a time where he was linked to him, wasn't he?
I generally thought that Rodgers was going to be the man.
I think that would. I think the problem is if Spurs were in a better position, I'm not going to be too harsh on them because I don't want to seem biased, but there is so much to do. There is the Kane situation, and regardless of if he stays this season or not, he's going in the next 2 years.
It's almost like a bit of a poison chalice job, isn't it?
And then
in 3 years,
people don't fancy it.
Call it as it is.
And then you got bloody Son. I mean, I don't know what on earth has happened to him. Like, he was the best player of the season last year, and now I don't even think you'd make 20 mil for the geezer. I reckon you wouldn't want to be taking him off their hands because he's going to cost a lot of money. He's experienced. he's scored goals. He can score goals. He's shown that, but he's just inconsistent, especially this year. So that's two elephants in the dressing room, right? You've got Richarlison, can't seem to stay on side. You know, I mean, Jesus Christ, like I've never seen that happen to someone in their first season. Like 3 goals, 3 offsides, absolutely outrageous. But
3 bookings and all.
3 bookings as well. You know, taking the top off. So you've that's 3 things you've got to kind of resolve and put together. Kulusevski, yeah, great, all right. He's gonna somehow come alive, and I think Richarlison probably will next year as well. I think if anyone's firing for him, he'll be one of them as well as Kane.
Yeah, they'll have what's his name? Bentancur got a big injury, didn't he? He was quite a big loss for him as well.
Yeah, and Bentancur's going to come back. But then you look at that back line, and I think
the one area they really need to address is their defence.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Story mentioned it earlier. Their defence, Jesus. I reckon Stevenage Borough could give them a few bloody, players that would. Yeah, I think David Raya is going to be a good signing for him. That looks like it's near enough nipped up on the bud.
They needed to address that keeper for a long time, boys.
Yeah, I think Raya is a good signing for him. And I don't know what they were thinking with Fraser Forster, but I can't believe he actually ended up getting a shot. Just beats volley.
So he broke his arm or something, didn't he?
Yeah, and then, I think Forster just sort of stayed in the mix because Lloris wasn't really living up to standard. But we will go off teams overall. I'm going to get some season awards, and then we're going to go around the room and basically do a team of the season, and we'll go 2 each, and then we'll pick a keeper. I'll pick a keeper and a defender. So we'll go around the room. I'll pick keeper left. Dale can pick the 2 centre backs. Lee can pick a midfielder and a right back. And then you've got a midfielder and an attacking mid, Sam. And then the front 3 we'll do together because I think that will be an interesting one. Midfield's kind of near enough done. So I think
we did it based completely off of the season we've just had.
Yeah. Keeper, I think, is quite hard, actually. But if you do kind of disagree, then, just let me know. And if anyone tuning in disagrees or feels like there's an awful shout or a good one, let us know in the comments. I think keeper's tough. I think there's 2 people I would put in there for definite, Alisson and Pope. I don't want to give it to Edison because I just feel like he's set that for himself now. And he's just matched what I know he's capable of. Alisson had a tough season with Liverpool, but he stood his ground. I'm going to give it to Pope, though, because I feel like Newcastle aren't going to get many players in here, and it's just an opportunity for me to give them some credit. And I think he did do well. There's a lot of keepers in that England rank when the time comes for Euro 2024, and I think he's given himself, a bit of leeway. I think he's put himself up there. Right back, oh my God, this is going to be tough.
I know who my right back would be.
Yeah,
Trippier.
Yeah, that'd be mine.
I'm trying to think of one that's been better than him.
Trippier wouldn't be mine.
Who would yours be? This is interesting, then.
I'd have Ben White.
That again.
I'd have Ben White all day, mate. I think he was outstanding last season.
No, I did see some bad.
I think the only one game I saw him have at which he struggled was when against Matoma at the Emirates.
Yeah, Brian, that game was absolutely hideous, and it was all over it. It was all happening on that side.
For the rest of the season, he was outstanding, and he chipped in with 2 or 3 really important goals.
I think White and Trippier are the only 2 you can really put down. I don't think Trent had a good year. Reece James was a bit all over the place and had his injuries. Is there anyone else? Is there any special mentions? I'm trying to think. I don't think there is. I'm going to go Benny White because I don't think many Arsenal players are going to get into this, to be honest. Given Pope his dues, so
I think people say Trippier because they had one of the best defensive records last season. But if you actually look at him as a right back, he didn't really contribute an awful lot to Newcastle. Didn't really score many goals. Didn't really get. He didn't get many goals. He didn't get many goals. He didn't get many assists. And as a back four,
got their player of the season.
Yeah, but I still don't agree with that. I think Bruno and Joe Linton and Callum Wilson were all better than him. Pope was better.
What about you forgetting as well? Botman was good for him.
This is what I'm saying. I don't think that.
What a signing he was.
I don't think Trippier was as good as what people think. I think they just look at it as Newcastle as a whole had a good season, and because he's the captain, people seem to put him on this pedestal that he's not on. I think Ben White was outstanding. Generally, I don't think there was a better.
I'm going to go for Benny White anyway. I'm sure I'd be shocked if there's any other contender that someone mentions than Kieran Trippier. But yeah, Pope and Ben White so far in the team of the season. Dale, give me your two centre backs, please.
Oh, it's hard because obviously I think a lot of this is going to be based around Man City and Arsenal because they were the two best teams. I'd have given you one centre back or two.
Both. And then actually, I'll
give you one because I think the one is the one that I think we'll all agree on, which is Saliba.
I'm shocked actually. I wouldn't have said him. I would have said an Arsenal player, but I don't.
I think Saliba was the best centre back in the league last year.
I think it's just due to the injury. I think Gabriel, I saw more of him, and Gabriel seemed to step up, and I think he had a tough job given that Saliba was absent. Playing next to Rob Holding, Jesus Christ, I wouldn't wish it on any man. But
I would put someone else ahead of them, and it's not even Arsenal related, but it might be the second.
I've got another two ahead of them. Yeah,
I've got one. I think the one that you're going to say, but I think because of where he's been playing, that's why I didn't pick him. Is John Stones.
A great shout. I completely forgot about him. To be fair, great shout.
I think it's only because he played a lot of the season in midfield or this like inverted midfielder. That's why I kind of haven't looked at him as a sort of out and out centre back. But I do think Stones was brilliant as well. So there's an argument maybe for Stones.
No, that's a good shout. I mean, now you said that, I don't know how much who I'm about to say played, but I think he played an important part when he was there. But I was going to say Diaz.
Yeah, he was my other one. It would have been.
And the other one, the guy you just mentioned as well, Botman.
Botman.
I think Botman was outstanding. If I was picking two, if you used to say to me as a manager, you got to pick two right now to start, it would be Diaz and Saliba. But yeah, I think credible mentions to Stones and Diaz. I think they were both brilliant.
Saliba's a good shout. So you're going with Saliba, yeah?
I'm going to go with Saliba, yeah. So I'd go with Ben White and Saliba.
Dale, you're going to be supporting us then.
Oh, mate. I've never heard him be this positive towards us, ever.
No. Imagine if we won the league, Sam.
I'm giving credit where credit's due. We'll have the discussions when we get further up the pitch when we have that debate.
Oh, God, here we go. I know where that's coming as well, right on that right wing. Lee, let's hear it. What's your... give me a left back. I'm intrigued to know who you go with this one.
Left back, I think it's quite a tricky one because there's not that many.
Nathan Ake's got to be, mate.
Yeah, he was worth mentioning. He's had a.
What about the
Brighton? He's not even a left back, and he's had like a stunning season.
Estepinian would be mine.
Yeah, he's actually going to be my pick. So I was going to mention him last, but Estepinian, wherever you say it. Yeah, absolute class signing. I mean, Brighton obviously sold Cucurella for 60 mil, and then they're probably thinking, how the fuck do we replace him? He was class for him last year, and they've put in this fella for God knows. No one knows how much it was that low, and he's been even better. So, absolute quality.
I think there was probably an argument maybe for Luke Shaw. I think a lot of United fans would probably try and throw Luke Shaw into the.
He had a few minutes, but
I wouldn't put him above Estepinian, but I think probably Luke Shaw. I think Zinchenko. A lot of fans would probably argue him, but I think that he had a good start to his Arsenal season, but I think it kind of tailed off towards the back end a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like those players have had a couple games where they've had howlers, whereas I can't think of any with the Brighton geezer. Where I can't stand out moments where he's been terrible.
A lot of people said Zinchenko, and I was like, what?
I think because at the start of the season when Arsenal were absolutely flying, that Zinchenko was a big part of it. But
then when we dropped, he was a massive part of it as well.
He got found out, didn't he? He got found out.
Zinchenko's got a couple of traits that really fucking annoy me as well, so I would never put him in. Those fucking the huddles he does all the time, and the team talks in the middle of a game and gesturing to the crowd. Just play your football, fuck off. Just winds me up so much.
Okay, so
we're a football club together, mate. For once.
Concentrate on not getting nutmegged by Trent.
Yeah.
So you're going a Stupian.
Yeah.
I'm going to pronounce it like that. All right, and another centre back, but we're going to debate this.
I thought we
thought we
was
done it.
Saliba and Diaz.
Saliba and Diaz. So we did go with Diaz. Okay.
I think so, did we? Yeah.
I'm just jotting this down. That's all. So
I'll write it down.
special mentions to Botman and Stones. Yeah.
I think as well. I think one of the most underrated centre backs from last season as well. He probably won't get a mention in the team of the season, but is Akanji. I think he had a really underrated season. I think he's played right back, left back, centre back. I think he even stepped into midfield a couple of times as well. So another mention to him as well. First season in the Premiership. I think Lewis Dunk as well probably needs a mention.
Yeah, great shout.
I think he's brilliant.
He just always delivers, doesn't he? He's like a bloody postman.
I think there's a few. There was a few good defenders. Maybe like say Diaz and Saliba were probably the two ones that everyone would think, but there was a few that I think needed mention.
Right, midfield, please, Miller. This would be interesting.
What are we going with? A holding midfielder, then
I was going to say 4-3-3.
Yeah, do 4-3-3.
So Miller, you can. We'll debate this anyway, but say who you would go for your two midfielders, and then we'll have a debate. But I think this should be near enough clear. Near enough.
So
I think two are stone like nailed on.
I've got three but it's a debate between the three.
Right. Should we just say Kevin De Bruyne and Odegaard are both in?
Yeah,
so we need to debate that further.
My debate would be Rodri.
Yeah, that would be my three. Would be Rodri, Odegaard, Kevin De Bruyne.
I think my pedestal is just too high for Rodri. It's hard to
argue.
argue.
Outstanding. He's been absolutely outstanding for them.
Yeah. There's obviously other players you can mention. Declan Rice has been outstanding again.
Not in the league, though. Not in the league.
Hang on.
It's a shit team around him.
Granit Xhaka.
Caicedo.
Casemiro. I think United fans would argue Casemiro.
Yeah.
I think
Arsenal fans were blowing up Thomas Partey at the start of the season.
If any Arsenal midfielder other than Odegaard gets in, and this would come after Odegaard and De Bruyne,
I think the midfield. I think the midfield's kind of spoken for. If you look at
Rodri would. I think it's.
If you look at the performances, the numbers, the goals, the assists between all of them, I think even Rodri scored Champions League final winner. He popped up with a few other goals throughout the season. Odegaard pretty much carried Arsenal towards the back end of last season, and Kevin De Bruyne does what Kevin De Bruyne does. So I think that midfield's probably the easiest one to pick.
So I don't know how many he's actually got, but he registered his 100th assist or something this season.
Yeah, Kevin De Bruyne is a joke, mate.
He broke the record, didn't he? Yeah.
Mad.
Right, the front three. This will get interesting.
I think two are nailed on. I think the only debate is the left wing. I don't think there's a debate. But to be fair, I'll tell you my three, and then you guys will see if you agree. I would go Salah, Haaland, Saka.
No, I don't agree.
Who did you go with the first one?
Salah, Haaland.
I agree with them two. I think we've already had this debate on Saka and Martinelli. And I
can't believe Harry Kane's not getting a mention. The geezer scored 30 goals.
I know. I think the way that I look at it is Haaland or Kane. I don't think you have both. So I think I'd take Haaland.
Are we doing this where players have to play in their position? Because
you don't have to. It's opinion based.
No, but I'm just saying if we're not doing it, but players don't have to play in their position, I would arguably go back to our right back and say, okay, I'm sticking another centre back in there because I know I for one think Gabriel had a better season than Ben White. The
thing is that people will look at Salah and Saka and Martinelli. Salah had better goal contributions than both of them.
Yeah.
So,
but he's also a veteran in the league.
I'm not saying that Martinelli and Saka should both get in. I think if any Arsenal player gets in that front three, I think it's Martinelli. I think he's been phenomenal. Top goal scorer.
Let's go majority vote. Are we all agreeing that Salah's over Saka?
Yeah.
For me, yeah.
And Martinelli. So Salah, Haaland, Martinelli. Is that what we're going with?
I would have gone Saka, Haaland, Kane, man, because you're saying not play him as you play him.
Right. If we're doing that, then yeah, Kane gets in over both our players. It's not a debate, really, is it?
Right. We'll say Salah, Haaland, Kane.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
Salah, Haaland, Kane.
And then we'll put a special mention to Matey.
Saka and Martinelli, first two subs.
Yeah. Oh, imagine that for two players to bring on when you've got that front three.
All right. Before we post the team, who's manager?
I'm not going Pep. Sorry, but
I would go Pep.
he gets it every bloody year.
Conte.
He doesn't.
Jeez.
I think there's quite a few people you can mention.
Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe.
Yeah, Eddie Howe, obviously, for leading Newcastle back to Champions League, having the fewest losses in the league, best defence, it's unbelievable. Gary O'Neill at Bournemouth, De Zerbi at Brighton. What's his name?
We'll go Pep.
Fulham would get relegated.
We'll have to go Pep because it's going to cause. I'm tired of giving this guy manager of the season.
I don't think you have to go Pep.
No, but he has. Now that he's done the treble, it would be insane to he's done it, not give it.
I think you got to look at the one that before the start of the season, would we have said that Man City have a chance of doing a treble more than Newcastle have a chance of finishing in the top 4? Yeah. What would you say is more likely?
Newcastle top 4.
So if we're saying that Newcastle had more of a chance of getting in the top 4 than Man City had doing a treble, then you'd have to give the manager role to Pep because that's a better achievement, isn't it?
All right, so Pep, and then we're going special mentions: Gary Neal, Eddie Howe, and of course Unai Emery. Can't forget about him. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else really. Who's the Fulham manager? Is it Marco Silva still?
Yeah, and also Lampard as well for nearly relegating 2 teams.
Yeah. I tell you, I think who else needs to have a bit of a mention is Cooper at Forest. there was a spell.
Yeah. He got sacked a couple of times.
Yeah, and I think that they stuck with him, and I think the Nottingham Forest fans were right behind him. So I think he done really well given the amount of players and the amount of work he had to do. I think he done well to keep them up. So
I'd also argue the Brentford gaffer done well to sort of second season.
Luke, are you high?
And I actually think I haven't seen anyone mention it surprisingly, but the Wolves gaffer, Lopetegui, whatever his name is, like he took them over when they were bottom of the table and they finished quite comfortably out of relegation. So I think he actually came in and done a good job unnoticed.
Yeah. I hate Wolves, so he's not going to get any sort of.
No one really gives a fuck about him, but he has.
I hate the way they play football. I actually hope next year. Obviously, Luton, Sheffield United, and Burnley have come up, and I think 2 of those are already straight in the relegation zone. And I hope Wolves is the 3rd team because I hate the way they play football. They used to actually be exciting, but they've just become a team that you just guarantee will win by 1 goal or draw 2-2 or lose. They're not exciting.
Just touching on the new teams coming up, what do you expect from them?
Yeah, exactly what I said. Burnley will do well because Vincent Kompany is absolutely brilliant manager and they've already got a near enough good squad. They just need to bring a bit more depth in and some quality in there, which I think they'll do. I think potentially you could see some players like Sambi Lokonga go in there maybe. It's going to be players like that, 3rd choice players for the top 6 teams that are going to go help them out because Vincent Kompany's name is just going to bring that limelight. He's going to have that to put on the table. I am Vincent Kompany. We've seen what he's done with Burnley. Absolutely incredible. They'd won the league. God knows how early on in the season. But Luton and Sheffield United, straight down for me. And I hope so as well. Can't wait to watch it.
I feel actually out of the 3, Sheffield United are going to do the best.
Jesus Christ, that's a Dale shout.
I think Luton I don't have much hope for apart from their home. I think some teams might struggle going to their ground. The away day curse for them. I don't know. That's their only hope is their home form. But I don't know. I feel like Burnley, Vincent Kompany's never managed in the Premier League. I know he's done well in the Championship, but I don't know. I think he might struggle a bit.
I think it's written Arsenal first game of the season away.
That's what everyone's saying in it. Friday night under the lights, some old lady's backyard. Can't wait, bloody hell.
They're not the Sean Dyche, but Burnley, are they? They're not the physical. They try and play this nice football. They're stepping up a league now. They're not in the Championship.
Yeah, I just realised we touched on team of the season. Let's quickly run round flop of the season. Richarlison for me. Dale.
Cucurella.
Yeah, I think they're both really good shouts. Off the top of my head, I'd probably have to go Richarlison because I can't think of anyone that was as bad as that for the money that was paid.
Sancho could be actually put in there as well, but It depends. We're talking signings, yeah. Flop for me. A flop's got to be someone that's come in and not delivered. Sancho did that 2 years ago.
Arthur didn't start a single game, so he's got to be in there.
Who?
Yeah, Arthur.
Exactly. Who?
Although we never. I think you've got to look at the expectation of the player coming in and then what they did and the price tag they were bought for. I think Cucurella was bought for massively overpriced, but he was never expected to change our Chelsea. I think Richarlison was supposed to be the one to take the throne off it. Yeah, and he done nothing. So I think Richarlison's probably it.
All right, player of the season is Haaland. Let's all not dick around about that. Young player. So the rule it had to be someone that wasn't. I still think this should be the rule set in stone with the FA. If you win player of the season,
you can't.
I don't think you should be able to win both, because when you have players like Robot Haaland stepping in the mix, it's just going to get ridiculous for all these players.
What's the threshold? What's the age for a young player?
Isn't it 23 in? I'm pretty sure it's 23 in the limelight.
And we're saying so. If we're saying that Haaland can't win both, it has to be someone who's under 23 and not Haaland.
Yeah.
I don't know. Trying to read the nominees.
Right. So you've got advert. So you got Botman, Caicedo, Haaland, Isaac, McAllister, Martinelli, Odegaard, and Saka.
Odegaard.
Oh, so it must be 24 then.
Odegaard.
Yeah, I thought the threshold must be 24 because Odegaard's not 23. I know that for a fact.
If for me, Odegaard.
Yeah, Odegaard is 23. Yeah.
Is he?
Oh no, he's 24. Yeah, McAllister and Odegaard are both 24. So. They turn 24. They turn.
That makes it very easy, right? So we're done flop, we're done player.
Yeah, I think
surprise team. I think this is one I just threw in because it's just there's so many teams that you could put in there. For me, it's got to be Villa.
Mate, if you remember rightly, all them months ago, I said Villa would crack the top 6.
I know, and it was at one point I was thinking, what are you on? What are you drinking?
All right, they had to change their manager to do it, but I generally looked at their squad on. I looked at their squad on paper, and I did expect them to cause a bit of an upset. Where did they finish in the end? Was it 7th?
Yeah, point behind 6th.
I think you'd probably go. Was Brighton be classed as a surprise? I don't think we was really shocked by
because they had Potter. I think at the beginning of the season they had Potter, and the surprise for me is what you expected beginning, what they ended. So
it's two teams for me. It's either Bournemouth or Fulham.
Yeah, that would be the other two. I would say.
I think Bournemouth, obviously, they barely spent any money in the summer.
Sacked their manager.
Sacked Scott Parker after losing 9-0.
We're spot on for relegation as well. Everyone thought they were going down. Literally every.
And I writ off Fulham at the start of the season as well in the pod we done. I think I remember when Chris was on, he picked Fulham as his surprise. And I picked him. I just laughed at him and said they're going down, and they finished 10th. So, that was a big surprise to me as well. So those two are my main surprises. I think in a good way, surprise in a good way.
Would Chelsea be classed as a surprise?
In a bad way. If you're talking surprise in a bad way, I think
if we were to do a flop team, we did a flop player, a flop team. Let's be honest, we'd all say Chelsea.
I think I called Chelsea to finish outside the top 6 this season as well. Just throwing that out there.
To be fair, you said Chelsea.
Dale, you also said that Haaland weren't going to.
I know.
I'm surprised at Southampton. Even I know they were bottom, but they got some really good results against some of the better teams, and just fucked it against everyone else around them.
Yeah, they beat City. They were one of how many teams beat City?
Yeah, and obviously Leicester going down with their squad is outrageous.
Yeah, I think flop of the season would have to be Chelsea, then Leicester just below, I reckon. I think Southampton were always going to be down there. I think if you take Ward-Prowse out of that squad, they're a championship side all day and all out, all night. But surprise.
And obviously Frank Lampard.
You and Frank. But yeah,
I like Frank, do you?
I think we've touched on everything, boys. It's good to get back on. I can't believe how much we had to actually talk about. But thank you for everyone that tuned in. Luke just saying there, Saka for me, Den. It's good. See, this is the position we're in now. We can have Spurs actually complimenting our players. And it's been wonderful to hear Dale with all these shouts for Arsenal players in that team of the season. But yeah, we're going to post it and make sure we get your thoughts. Make sure you smash those buttons and hit the subscribe if you're new. But yeah, we'll be back soon. Have a good rest of the week, guys, and take it easy.
Cheers.
Bye.